Recording?
Yes.
Yep. That'll do. Is that on the stage?
We are just now. I unmuted it.
I'm going to call this evening's meeting of the Bonner County Planning Commission to order. It's 4:30. Conference room, first floor, two. First order of business, we pledge allegiance. So everybody stand, face the flag, and recite. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start the roll.
Commissioner Frankenbach,
Commissioner Linscott. Please. Mr. Songstad. Commissioner Williams.
Trinan.
We have a forum on the Commissioner's School System. Leader. So we move forward. Any announcements?
I don't have any.
I don't know if it's an announcement, but
Yeah, do you want to discuss the commissioner's response to the letter? That might be inappropriate.
I made a presentation to the county commissioners on the 25th, I think it was, on the short-term rentals or vacation rentals. And, I think it was generally well received. I think to Commissioner Bradshaw at Walmart. Commissioner Williams had some questions that she was concerned about in terms of county staff, cost, whether or not contracts were to be terminated, I guess, after the initial period. Right this way, and that's the market. We believe it would pay for itself. So they set a workshop for August 30th, 2:30. At that point in time, the commission agrees. I think we should make a pretty detailed financial analysis of at least the proposals that we have, and then present the proposals we have. We have to, and they have cost numbers in them. We may be updated. There's most current things we have, not going back to them because for a new proposal. I think if that happens, then we'll be hopefully these group commissions will, I think, favorably inclined to move forward with that. At that point in time, we need to address the merits of the ordinances themselves. So that we've got some enforceable limitations on vacation rentals. So that's where we are. Jake, I don't know if you saw the video.
Yeah, I watched the YouTube video this morning. So I think it just, between now and the 30th, I'll reach out to City of Sandpoint. They've had theirs up and running for a better part of a year now, I want to say. So I'll see what kind of pain points they had in implementing their software. And then I'll work on the detailed analysis for the financials on it. We can give them several different scenarios and kind of talk through the need to it. And hopefully we can come to at least a decent understanding as to, you know, where we're going to go or where we'd like to go with enforcing that ordinance.
I would reach out to Coeur d'Alene.
Yep, I can
Coeur
do
d'Alene
that.
has the other company.
Right.
Danforth has that. Coeur d'Alene has Rennicus.
Mhm.
When I talked to the Coeur d'Alene guy, he was very positive. Thought it was really good move for them.
Okay.
So I thought
Yep, I can do that.
that the city of Coeur d'Alene or the city of Coeur d'Alene?
Yeah.
I didn't talk to County County, I
I can reach out. I've met the Kootenai County director a few times, so I can chat with him. I don't think I remember seeing anything in the ordinance with I don't think they regulate short-term rentals, but I could be wrong. So, and I'll see if,
I don't know, Portland definitely does.
yeah.
Their ordinance is a lot tighter than ours.
So you, Mr. Chair, you stated there was a workshop, is that open, or will there be one or two other people there?
Workshop, I think, is for us.
All this, or?
We can advertise it as a joint workshop between the planning commission so that if we get a quorum, we're okay and we're covered. So,
I think that would actually, I think it would actually be a good idea, because, we explained to them, I explained to them that this was unanimous.
to make sure we advertise that workshop as a quorum.
Oh, yeah.
Board.
But anyway, I think they're all persuadable that we should be able to have a workshop.
Does that
The
imply that
the math isn't very complicated.
So.
So the work
August 30th to what?
to 2:30, I think.
2:30 in the commissioner's hearing?
It'll be upstairs. So the workshop is just informational. It's for us to explain to them, and then if they want to then add that onto an agenda item for an action for a decision, then we'll do that at a business meeting. So this is just kind of informational gathering for us to explain to the commissioners a little bit more detail as to the reasons why and then the potential financial impact.
I mean, I think the urgency of it is that they're going through the budget discussion.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that.
So I think we need to push this, even though our analysis shows that it's really not a cost to, it wouldn't be a cost to carry.
Mhm.
They obviously have some concerns about that, so we need to address it.
I'll chat with their the admin. I know we had a meeting scheduled for the 8th with them, which would just be next week. But we don't have any hearing items, so maybe we can take that time for a workshop. So I'll see if I can get it moved out of the 30th.
And that's
Yeah, because by
The
the
9th,
30th,
so-
they're done with their budget, aren't they?
Yeah, they're going to get it wrapped up here in the next 3 weeks or so.
yeah, so we should try to get that.
Okay, I'll chat with Jesse tomorrow about it.
are we going to do the financial analysis based on the current fee structure that we have, or are we going to?
I think what I'll do is show what the current is, and then give them some options of how it could be adjusted.
So is the goal here, obviously, the ideal situation is to break even on any investment, or is the county allowed to have enterprise funds where you're actually generating something beyond what it's, so in other words, if it was so productive that it was making additional money, you can reduce the rates?
All right. So our planning budget falls underneath the general fund. There are certain funds that are enterprise, like standalone, like solid waste is its own enterprise fund, and so is like EMS is a different, because it's a separate taxing district. So planning falls under general fund. The general idea is that our revenues hit about 80% of our expenses. So we're trying to get a rough break even of about 80%.
So my question here is then,
Well, you think 20% of our time is taken up by county initiated projects like comp plan stuff, right? So that's the idea, is that about 80% of our time is customer driven activities. So that's where I see a break even of about 80.
Right now, your enforcement side is not very deep, right?
I don't know. So the majority of the,
So if just the hard cost of the contract is covered, and then there's a surplus in addition to that, my thought is that covers staff time
exactly.
for enforcement, because you guys are going to be doing it on their own, and there's going to be some staff time involved.
Right.
There's going to be, I think, probably calculate some of the other enforcement under that same revenues. So
yeah, so those are kind of some of the dynamics that would be brought out, I think, for commissioners. I mean, there's value in compliance, is there not? Or are they going to invest out of the general fund for compliance, or or not? Because I think you said to us, if I remember right, you only had about a 30% compliance.
Yeah, 35%, I think,
Yeah.
last time we did the math.
And I don't know how much you're spending in your budget, but that would be a question, okay, out of that 35%, how much per, with your budget, money is that generating compared to what you're able to spend on it? And it seems to me you're kind of hamstrung as a planning department.
But
On
the
this-
real issue is that planning department does not have information to gain a higher level of compliance.
Right,
So if you can't get that higher level of compliance, then there's a cost associated.
so the question should be to the commissioners, do you want compliance or do you want what you have now?
And we're talking compliance to this one specific ordinance. When you say compliance, I think of compliance to all of Title 11 and all of Title 12. And we do a lot of other compliance-related actions to enforce both our building regulations and planning regulations. So, but talking specifically vacation rentals, yes, we need information to be able to get a higher level of compliance.
That's all I was addressing.
Yeah.
Overall compliance, I mean, you just don't, that was one of the questions that was asked of me, well, we need data, I need data from the planning department.
That's fine.
Planning department doesn't have data.
Yeah, and we can put some potential impact type numbers together, so I can do that. That's not a big deal.
All right, so if you can get it done for the 8th, that would be great.
Like I said, I'll work with their admin and see if we can get it to next week.
And then you can notice it as a workshop, perhaps.
Yep, I think it would be the 9th, so
I'd like to
a week from Wednesday.
I'd like to review whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe we can distribute that.
I can do that.
All right, so that's my report. We'll move to consent agenda with the approval of July 18th, 2023 planning meetings. Any objection? Hearing none, minutes for July 18th, 2023 are approved. We'll move on to workshop and action items. We'll file number and 0014-23, text amendment, Otter County Revised Code 12.
Mr. Chairman, the only comment I have, because I saw on Facebook that we're gonna have this and that number 14-23. I go to the website and it's not listed there. If you go under current projects.
Yeah, that's fine. I took this as a learning point from the last AM file where I didn't bring it to you guys in a workshop format, and there was a number of changes requested by this commission before sending it to the board. So I thought before finalizing my application and sending this out to agencies and posting on the website, that I'd bring it forward to you guys, or you folks, to see if there's any other changes that you would propose in this before does that make sense? So it's not really an action item, it's more of a workshop, and then feedback, and are there any adjustments needed? Do you see any other flaws in this? So it's just me gaining your input. It's right now still in draft format. I don't think we've sent agency notice on this. Yeah, I think we're pending tonight. It's currently like tentatively scheduled for the beginning of next month to come before you guys. And so we have over a month before, so lots of time for public comment and whatnot. So this is in your drives under today's, I dropped it in earlier today. I should have dropped it last week, but my apologies. So the idea behind this is that, are you guys aware of our double, triple density for home rule? So if you have, right now, the way it's written, if you have 15 acres in an R5, you can build 3 single-family homes without dividing your land, right? So you get the density without division of property. So it's trying to retain some larger parcels, but still give availability for homes to be built.
So would one of those be considered an EDU or?
Nope. Right now, it's single-family dwellings is how it's been interpreted.
So you could, in essence, if you had a 15-acre and a 5 zone, you could have 3 single-family dwellings,
Mhm.
3 ADUs.
1 ADU.
Only one ADU. Okay.
Yeah, because the ADU is per property, yeah.
Okay.
And then, yep, so, Correct. Yeah. So that's the way this is currently drafted. So what this doesn't include, so when we do divisions of land, we always exclude submerged lands from the available land for density, for zoning, right? It's not excluded in this code. So it's come up twice now. It looks like it was a fix that should have happened back in 2012. I called and asked Milton. He said, yep, that should have been fixed too, and I just never got around to it. So this is me getting around to fixing this portion of the code. It's a small fix. I think it, like, intuitively, it makes a lot of sense. I talked to legal about it, and he said, yeah, let's do an ordinance change, because it's come up a couple times now in the last 6 months where I think we just need to clarify it and clear it out in the code. So while we're in there, we made some other changes to kind of clarify the code as well. So instead of just dwelling units, because now we have accessory dwelling units and RV dwelling units, we're specifying it's single-family dwellings, and that corresponds with the residential use table and how we define our single-family dwellings. We added lots or parcels in a number of places. We took out units and just talked dwellings. Yeah, so it's the same standard in 12-411 and 12-412, because they're just talking different notes applying to the different zones.
So all this is doing is just aligning with the rest of our code.
It aligns with how we utilize submerged lands when establishing density for land divisions, which this kind of corresponds with land divisions. You're establishing density on properties, but if you had, a case we had was 15 acres and 5 acres was upland, 10 acres was submerged, and they wanted to build a second house. The way the code's written, I couldn't tell them no. Intuitively, they couldn't divide the land and then build a house in the water, right? So this seems to have, it should have been fixed, like I said, a long time ago. Yeah.
Because is it in 12.6 that someplace I saw, we already have that submerged language?
Yep. And we have a definition for submerged land, so I didn't include the definition in the ordinance here, so I'm just referring to it, to the current definition of it.
Oh, that's
The
not-
definition of submerged land includes the water, right? Is it high water mark or?
It's I can pull up the definition if you want to look at it.
It what?
Ordinary high water or artificial.
Okay. That's in the definition of submerged land? Okay.
So, should we really clarify that the sentence that we need to say, submerged lands shall not contribute towards the total area of the lot or parcel?
What? What are you saying, Swati?
Submerged lands shall not contribute towards the total lot or parcel area in the calculations for determining the maximum density of dwellings.
Rather than what's there.
Yeah.
I copy pasted what it has in chapter 6 and just changed it a little bit to talk about.
I can read it the other way and say, shall not be counted, which means it doesn't matter if my land is underwater.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Shall not be counted means it will be counted.
Okay. Okay.
Well, at least we're clarifying the clarifications.
Yeah. Shall not be considered. What do you say?
Contributed.
Submerged lands, area of the submerged lands shall not contribute
Or
towards.
say it the other way around. The maximum density of dwellings on a single lot or parcel of land shall be calculated based on non-submerged land only.
That's, wow, I'm impressed.
Not do that again.
He's a grammar Nazi.
Okay.
Well, it's just easier, I think, to say exactly what you want.
No, that's fine.
I even understood it.
The maximum density of dwellings on a single lot or parcel of land shall be calculated using non-submerged land only.
Dry land area only.
Or whatever, if you have some other term, submerged or non-submerged, like upland is
So would
understood to be
non-submerged be okay?
dry land.
No, we should stick to submerged because that's defined.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Submerged is one of the definitions.
We should probably then follow this up with change the submarine novels. So all the language goes to that.
So 12.6 actually goes and like copy paste submerged land into it. So we can look at it. Let me finish.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just think it's a good idea to be uniform throughout, yeah. The language is part of it.
Yep, that works.
Okay, does it have to say something about owning? We're talking about ownership. They own, the description is out into the water. They own it. We have to mention that in there. It's not mentioned ownership in the sentence somewhere.
I don't think so, because we're talking about the density of a single lot or parcel, and that lot or parcel may include submerged land.
Right.
So
What is it, conservation?
What is
I
what?
don't know if we have any
Conservation subdivision.
conservation.
we have a few. There's not a lot.
What is it?
It's where they leave a large amount of open space and then they cluster lots into a specific area of a property. So it might be 20 acre zoning and you have 200 acres, but you want a bunch of 1 acre lots. They leave a big area of open space that's conserved.
That
That's
was called subdivision.
conservation subdivision. So you can, yeah, it's in chapter 6. So. Okay.
Any other questions on this ordinances?
Do you want me to, let's pull up chapter 6 real quick on submerged land. Do we want to include it in this text amendment? That's the other question.
So you're gonna change, obviously, you're gonna change that.
Why don't you just say?
Yeah, so I made this is my draft version, so I'll make the change before I send it out. I'm glad we did this, because,
I'm still trying. I thought it was fine before, but I'm going with it.
yeah,
I knew what it meant.
anything you can do to help clarify it a little bit more, make it read, I don't know, I'm only one brain, when you get, 12 of us together, it makes a better product, so.
I don't think you need to have the submerged lands definition here. I think you just refer to it.
Yep.
Please guys
As
check.
defined in.
Check that definition, make sure there's nothing correct.
That's a good idea.
So let me show you what chapter 6 currently says. So lands below the applicable, you guys see that? Let's zoom in. So lands below the applicable natural or ordinary high water mark or the applicable artificial high water mark of any lakes, river, stream, channel, or other body of public water should not be counted in calculations for determining the maximum density for a subdivision. I think that's clear. I don't think it's ever been challenged. What's what?
I think you read the whole paragraph and
Yeah.
take into account the example. The
Mhm.
example certainly clarifies what.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's ever been challenged, our interpretation of that code, so. How about we tackle that whenever we do a review of chapter 6? Sweaty likes to make my job harder. So. Do you guys agree? Okay,
That's good.
great. And I think we had a public comment, if you want to take any public comment on this. Typically, we don't with workshops, but if you want to, I think.
Sure.
It's Mr. Wayne Martin. And just for the record, Randy is online with us. He joined just before I started. He has to accept being a panelist.
So is there any public online now?
Yeah, go ahead, Wayne.
Wayne Martin.
Hello, for the record, even though this may not be required in a workshop, a question for you on the 12-411-8 in the example, it says 3 dwellings on 15 acres. Now, are those dwellings required to be spaced out to some degree? The reason why I ask is, okay, in that 15 acres, if they were sold to be 5-acre lots, potentially if those homes or those dwellings were placed in a 5-acre lot, or does that make sense what I'm asking?
I get what you're saying. So The way when we advise folks if they're going to use this code provision is that if they cluster their homes in one spot, they're essentially tying up the rest of the land that can't be divided. Because what you can't do is create like legally non-conforming, or they can't create non-conforming properties. So we wouldn't allow a division of land into a 5-acre lot on 3 homes when they utilize that acreage already for the 3-home density.
All right, thank you. And I do apologize for not being there, but being at the commissioners meeting this morning, I can't run back and forth all the time.
That's fine. I have an extra desk upstairs if you want to stick around someday.
Okay. I may take you up on it.
All right, any other questions about these two draft ordinances? Yes, so are you going to put a reference to the submerged land section?
So anytime we say submerged lands, if there's a question as to what the definition is, you just go to chapter 8 for the definitions. You don't have to refer to the chapter 8 definition. So.
Is it in? Is it in?
It is. Yeah.
All right. So then it's going to be set for a hearing.
Yep, I'll get it set for a hearing for, again, I think I'll get the final draft done. We'll get it uploaded to the website tonight. I'll just update the attachment, so what the proposed draft is. I think the intent stays the same, and then we'll get it out for agency routing tomorrow, and then on the website so public can start commenting on it. Okay, that's all I had.
All right, thank you. Move on to the comprehensive plan. Discussion of natural resources. So, where are we?
You didn't get it done last night?
Why are you away? No, I'm sorry, Mike.
Funny guy.
Shoot.
All right, so I think we.
There it is.
Which one should we be looking at tonight?
Version 8.
You can look at either version 8 or version 9. Version 9 is what I will be making changes in today.
Okay.
So as of now, version 9 and version 8 are same.
They are. Okay.
As of now.
Did you pick up my comments? Version 8?
Yes. Yes. I just copied version 8 to create version 9.
Okay. Yeah, so I did that this morning.
Then should be here.
Sarcasm. I got more sarcastic. I agreed with some of your sarcasm.
I know, it seemed to fit as awesome. I'm gonna let it roll.
All right, so let's go to version. I guess it doesn't matter. So I think the version 9.
Version 8 or 9? 9.
I think they're the same. So let's see if we can apply some of these. So I think are we good with the water bodies?
Well, so as I looked at it earlier today too, the first paragraph, has got the 1998 database reference, which is potentially out of date. So but that's what made me go to that site that I showed. Because there's a 2022 report by DEQ, which is the reference. 2022, and a final report, where they're all across the board, look at water quality, water service, everything, streams, rivers, so it's there. So at a minimum, a present day reference to it.
Do we still have, because I remember my original comments of eliminating all those old data charts.
We eliminated a lot of
Do
it.
we have 1998 data still in this, shown on this?
I believe we do, because what I did is I grabbed the tables from the prior version, or current version, however you want to call it, of the comp plan, and those tables just name the water bodies and show the square miles, I think, of that watershed. So my judgment was that probably hasn't changed. And since the original said it came from this database from 98, I left that reference in there.
So I guess to go back and answer the original question here, it's okay to leave this database in because it's still accurate.
Well, overall, I think, I mean, I would answer Alan's question, are we okay with this? I'm okay with it, but subject to a review by, and I don't know if it's DEQ or IDWR or both. I think those agencies ought to look at what I've done.
So
It's outside my field of
the
expertise.
comment or the request.
And they may say, oh, we have an updated version of these tables that identify all the watersheds and it comes from database and I don't know, but that's the data I had. I don't have a 2022 database that lists in a tabular form all those water bodies and their square miles. So
Can staff then get the most current database and use that instead of saying 1998,
yeah,
whatever year,
I doubt if it's
2014 or
changed, but
2020, whatever.
It's just, if we go to the 2022.
Yeah.
Then
The most current.
we have to check it. to
What
see.
seems to be in there is more data, not just this, what you responded to here is the recognized watersheds of each area and square miles of each watershed. That's the minimum. But in that new database that I just cited in the 2022 report, we said known about that watershed.
and I don't want all that.
Does it contradict with the 19?
Well, I didn't look line for line and all that stuff.
No, but I mean, just in general, I mean, all this does, it says recognizes watersheds in the area and square miles.
So I don't know. I mean, technology today versus 1998 for GIS and stuff might be supposedly more accurate, but who cares?
I think,
Does it really matter?
but you make a good point, Don. I think in the original version of the document, they had loads and loads of data about all these water bodies.
Right.
And I think that's what that sentence that references the 98 database is.
It does.
It's referring to all of that data, not just here's the name of the body of water and here's the square miles of watershed. That's the only
Right.
data, only pieces of data that I extracted and decided we ought to include.
Can we just say then,
There is-
as of the time of this comprehensive plan, instead of a specific date? Or do you want to refer to a specific date, specific documents to prove that it's about 25,000 square miles, whatever about is?
I'm wondering if we can just delete that sentence, actually. I mean, I don't think it's, do we really need to cite a source for, here's the names of all the water bodies and here's the square mile of the watershed that they represent? Do we need to cite that source?
Wouldn't it be better if we just provided them link to the data instead of putting it on here in a tabular form?
If the data exists somewhere in that form.
Well,
There's-
that's what I'm saying.
It may not be in that form, but it may have GIS data that's publicly available.
Yeah, let me say it a little differently. Only that data, right? I don't want to put a link in here that now links to some website that DEQ and that is where there's tons and tons of other data that we haven't really considered to be relevant.
Would it be okay to put a link that provides that data, but it's more detailed?
Well, I would want to look at what it is. That's my opinion anyway.
I kind of
why
agree
we
with,
want to
I kind of agree with you, Dave, that we just strike those sentences.
Yeah.
Who cares what year they're from?
It's not controversial.
It's not
I don't think it's
somebody's gonna
controversial. I
challenge
don't think
you.
anybody's going to say, "Oh, the square mile of this creek is
You
actually
missed
only."
half a square mile. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I don't think it's controversial.
Right, but this is not our information, so I don't think we should reference it somewhere. Where did we get this information from?
Put it in the
It's not
glossary.
something-
General glossary at the end.
Yeah,
Put it in
it's
the
not something
glossary.
that we came up on our own, right?
Well, what do we do though?
Is the source listed at the tables?
I tried to find these 1998 databases, I could not find it. I mean, so after the last meeting that we had, I went through this component and I looked through other resources, trying to find those old databases, I could not find them.
I didn't have
So,
Google
If we can't locate the regional source that we are referencing, then we probably should.
Well, we referenced the 2022 report that Don found. Somebody needs to look at it, make sure it's not materially different.
And
Even
again,
if it is really different, do we envision something in that data that's going to change?
Right.
Change how we perceive water basins and watersheds?
I don't think so.
No, But, so I'm wondering why we even need those sentences in there. If somebody asks you, where'd you get this information? Google.
I think you could put it in the, you could put it in the.
Glossary.
I mean, it or whatever.
It does
No, I would
fall
cite
Yeah,
to the
it should
2022.
go in the bibliography at least.
public information
Yeah.
sector. Everybody knows that big body of water out there, oh, that's Salt Lake Harbor, right? After you do those.
Well, except my college roommate, I like to call it Ponte Royale, and I tried right for 4 years. Sounded like a little.
So let's take this sentence out.
Yeah, there you go.
And then the next 2 paragraphs down, and the last paragraph of that.
1995. Take that out as well.
Yeah, that report.
Paragraph. Water Resource Board.
Yeah, I don't know what it was for.
That, I wonder, since 95, has that actually changed? When did all those federal and state lands get auctioned off? Somebody who's been here longer than I have. Is that since 95?
It's been an ongoing process.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's,
So
latest
that, so,
auctions.
so that 90% number may actually no longer be accurate.
Well,
No, I don't think it is, because they've auctioned off most of the east side of the.
but, if we're talking about the drainage.
They are.
Basis,
They are.
drainage,
But that includes all
And
those.
it also says approximately.
Yeah.
Well, those are a lot of really
Pretty
small,
big word.
lots of pretty small tracks.
Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sentence absolutely necessary?
The whole sentence?
No. To me, the gist of this is, all this resource out there, well, what part of it is Bonner County Code applying to directly? And that's the privately held land. So that's getting to that sentence, yes, it might be.
I agree with Don. I think the notion that a large percentage, whether it's 90 or 80 or 85 or whatever, but a large percentage of that basin is publicly owned land, and we aren't going to do much about what happens.
Privately held process, even though they are changing hands, they're not becoming privately held. So those lease lots.
Yeah, I think you're right. I doubt that the auction of those state leases change that percentage.
Yeah, it's small relative to the overall size, right?
So we can take out the reference to
lot
Idaho
size
water.
have been up there less than an acre, probably.
Yeah.
Lots of rates, lots of them.
So how many square miles? It tells us how many square miles
761 square miles
in
Idaho.
Bonner County?
No, that's just in Idaho.
Well,
that's-
so I kind of go back to what Don is saying about all of this. We're talking about everything except Bonner County. And this is about Bonner County document. So really, the only sentence should be in here is that the Priest River Basin is X number square miles in Bonner County.
Oh,
Which would be
pretty much all in
913
Bonner
minus,
County.
well, 913, of which 761 is in Idaho, the rest is.
Well, so
Or
of
they
that
got-
716 is,
Yeah, take Boundary County out too.
Yeah.
Yeah. that's a chunk
how many
of it.
square miles is Bonner County?
17.
Okay, so it could be all about Bonner County.
But it isn't.
It isn't.
It
It's
isn't.
partly boundary and it's partly.
It goes up to Boundary County, right?
Western Boundary County.
British Columbia too.
Yeah, whatever the creek you call Upper Priest Lake Creek or whatever you call it that flows into the north end of Upper Priest Lake, that eventually
comes from
goes all the way up
Canada.
to British Columbia.
That's already included here.
Well, it's a lot of information that doesn't say much
Well,
about Bonner County.
I don't know. I think it's useful to sort of paint an overall picture. We're talking about a half a page here.
So I'm just saying Bonner County contains X square miles within the Priest River Basin.
If I knew that.
Well, but that's the point, we don't.
No, we
And
don't.
we're beating around the bush here.
Paragraph is exactly, it's an argument that is circling around to its point.
Yeah, because it's.
Which tells you nothing. We don't know how many square miles of the basin are within Bonner County. Now, if you can find that out, that's probably all we need to say.
It's about a 20-second GIS
There you go.
exercise.
So,
You think it's
well,
that
maybe
easy to
longer than
outline
20
where that
seconds. I
watershed
don't
is?
know.
Well, the watershed is probably already outlined.
So instead of a passive paragraph, we want an active paragraph. So it's a sentence to be, we want to
How about we
say.
just say
what
Active
we
and
want to say
and accurate.
instead of back.
61 square miles are in Idaho, most of which is water.
I'm
Yeah,
fine
it
with
doesn't
that.
really matter.
Sure, we
And
need,
most of that is.
we need to be politically correct here and give us some room to navigate.
Okay.
And then we'll take out the reference to Idaho Water Resources Board.
Yes.
I think so.
It's older than the other side. 3 years old.
So let's take that out. Who's to add there, that most of which are.
In the uses section, under recreational uses, I think personal watercraft should be a subcategory of boating. So it's another, it's, you know, I say boating, including power boats, personal watercraft, sailboats, etc.
I agree.
So you could, adding that in, that'll kick it out to make that enough space under the bullet. So you could also just say power boats, sailboats, personal watercraft,
Small.
kayaks, canoes, and et cetera.
You could, yeah. That's
Just
nice.
to keep it one line, so we won't.
Yeah.
Mark the paragraph in.
We have 6 boat launches.
Yeah, just so you know that.
So there's no other recreational activities we need. Take out personal watercraft because it moves it up. Domestic water supply. Got some on that, Don?
What now? Domestic water supply? Oh. Well,
I think your comment is a pretty good start at it.
Which one?
It's down a little bit below where the paragraph is. Any property owner can claim a water right from a source of water on their property or adjacent, such as a lake, creek, or river. Owners can apply for a license to use water beyond the statutory water right.
All right, let's substitute that for domestic water supply.
basic information about water resources.
Let's just move that Don's paragraph to domestic water supply.
And then hydro, we were gonna add a sort of general note that there are many, well, I don't know about many, there are smaller hydroelectric power generation facilities.
Well, they're not typically private, right?
They're private, but it's a use of the water. The use of the
Yeah,
water.
cogeneration.
Right. Well, even if it's not cogeneration, I'm just thinking, what I was thinking was individuals who install a small hydroelectric generator, and generate electricity.
Wheel that generate electricity. All right, well, let's put that in somewhere.
And then we did hear from whoever was on the phone with us last month, that does require a permit from IDWR, because they consider it to be use of the water, so it's a diversion, I guess.
Version, you have to, it would be included in your description of how you report, right? So all comes to the water right, license.
Even though you're, I assume, in most cases, putting it back in the work, eventually.
Yeah, but it is using, it's still used, because it will change the temperature of the water, then.
Where do you want to insert that?
I would probably put that after the paragraphs about the big dams.
Yeah, makes sense. Small hydro operations.
This was one sentence, so isn't it?
While you guys are considering that, I just looked up and it says as of 2020, the Priest River Basin is 981 square miles.
So somehow it grew by,
That's the total though, right?
well,
Well, even so, we said.
in
no.
that paragraph, it says 913.
That's no.
Must. So I'm just saying,
Where did you get that?
Google. No, it's actually from Department of Environmental Quality.
That's the thing, I mean, this and that, the GIS abilities of today are far greater than what they were at that time. Really changing.
Well, I'm just pointing out here that, I don't know, the more information you have, the,
What's the actual reference? What does it say?
the source is the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality.
What does it say?
Size, 981 square miles. Now, maybe they've added a couple of creeks. It's got East River, Menards Creek.
Well, that's the thing, if they investigated further, see, there's two methods of charting watershed that DEQ uses. One is a physical boundary like that, and the other one is, it's called averaging or something. So they,
Well, okay, so
it could be that they cut tighter data. Well, so
what,
The point here is that maybe we shouldn't be so precise as far numbers.
correct. We could just say the Priest River Basin is big.
Really big.
Really big. You could say that too.
So Fish River Basin. We just say Fish River Basin is over 900 square miles of area.
There you go.
Which is substantial amount of
Bonner County. Dick? Good.
per miles. Which says it, you know. We'll take out the reference to the northeast corner of Washington.
Yeah, that's a Dawnism. Strike it out. It would say long.
All right.
You want me to change that right here?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
East River Basin is
Over 900 square miles.
majority of which is in Idaho.
I just say,
Yeah, that's,
much of which,
What are you talking about? Water area.
much of which lies within Bonner County or something like that. Most of which.
Northeast corner of Washington contains
I would just say.
Take that all
Take
out.
out the, yeah, either take it all
Just one
out or at
sentence,
least
I
take
guess.
out the emails.
Do we want to even reference that there's some there? You'd say there's a small portion in northeast Washington and.
Why would
Who
you?
cares? Could be in Oregon for all I care. Not much difference.
I think it helps to paint the picture, and we're not talking about 50 pages, we're talking about a couple of sentences.
You could just say-
I don't care.
You could just say Priest River Basin is over 900 square miles in area, including Washington, Boundary County, and British Columbia. So, most of which are within Bonner County as well as northeast corner of Washington and British Columbia. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
obfuscating instead of,
I don't think we need to say, I think we just say 900 square miles area. most of which is in water.
period. And that can be the first sentence of, or is it a sentence by itself as one paragraph? Okay, we'll figure it out.
All right, so back to hydroelectric generation, we gotta move through this. Operation of these two dams, so we want to put in here something about, in addition, there are numerous private dams. So you can permit by IDWR or something like that.
Yeah, I'll just add
I'm not sure I'd say numerous.
Yeah, I don't think we know. I don't think we know.
numerous.
I would say,
Let's be careful about our modifiers or they're gonna get us in trouble.
I would say there are some, whatever, or just there are, small scale, individual, whatever we're doing, to characterize it, hydroelectric generating facilities that are subject to permit by IDWR. Or you could even just say an unknown number. To be clear, we don't know how many, but I'm sure there are some.
So let's put that in there and then,
So why do we need to mention these small private things? Because it's a use, or, I mean, we're really.
It is a use of the water. It is a use of the water. And that's what
Yeah,
state code directs us to address. Is
I
what are the
understand.
uses of the natural resources?
And I think it is important too, as far as the land use, I'm going back 30 years probably, there's actually quite a bit of grants for people to go ahead and put in private hydroelectric.
Okay, so what are you gonna add in there as one sentence? An undetermined, some private hydro units exist? Period.
all right, so
Are you catching this while you're, okay.
And I'm not sure
Because I'm
it's an
not.
unknown number either. I'm sure it's known to IDWR, for example.
Well, he's saying some, which I think is the best word to use.
irrigation, why so I don't have any problem with that. I don't know if we add anything.
So my only question is, under irrigation livestock, might do some, but again, I don't know that it really affects it. Maybe a few, it's not like southeast Idaho, where large corporations.
Or even Boundary County. That's
Well,
a number of
even
irrigation
Boundary-
districts.
Yeah, there are some irrigation districts about it. The ones that used to be here are no longer affected like that. Some down there.
So, is there a problem with the ordinance that's out there?
No, and I don't think we need, if they're larger scale, I can almost guarantee you gotta have a permit.
Yeah, and then you get
So-
a license.
So I think the sentence just as it's written is adequate. 2 sentences.
I agree, anybody else? Water discharge. We had some discussion about whether or not we need to mention other sewer districts that don't directly discharge into the water body.
Well, I thought, from what I recall, I don't think we could identify any others that directly discharge into the water, and that's the subject
We had
here,
some,
so.
yeah, there was some conversation about.
And there was a discussion about whether we should even mention standpoints. I put it in there because I know they're not in compliance right now. So, and I thought it was enough of a source of pollutants that we ought to at least notice
Let's just leave it.
it's there. We aren't going to do anything about it, but directly.
Do we need that last sentence then in there? I mean, it's not really our fight, it's not part of Bonner County, it's a,
Let's say that.
I put the second sentence in there to explain why we're talking about something that's in the city of Sandpoint and that we have no control over. It's because it is a significant, potentially significant source of,
yeah, but I mean,
in a,
Polluting a river that is in the county.
right.
Current threats,
Okay.
current and potential threats to surface water resources. I agree, it should be reviewed by DEQ. That on this whole thing will be supposedly.
staff have some way of reaching out and making that request of them,
Well, we're gonna send it to them.
but I mean,
You can't force them to
prior,
read it.
I mean, prior to our adopting this, they will be just reading the whole document.
They'll get it when we put it in public hearing.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else? 1.3, settlement. Output source. Temperatures, fish. I don't know if we need to, anything else other than high temperatures.
Well, as far as sediment goes, it says it's because of storm water runoff. That's really runoff from, I would argue, unmitigated construction sites or,
Not necessarily construction only, it's
Logging.
logging or also shoreline properties based on the way they're developed and managed. That's why we
so
have,
those are the sources though.
Yeah.
Not the stormwater runoff.
it takes both.
Well, exactly. The only ones mentioned in here, it's kind of like, well, yeah, we've got it, but because of stormwater, like, it's an act of God, so we don't have any. But there are, I think people need to be cognizant that best management practices are necessary.
Okay, that's the next section.
Okay,
Okay, so, go back, let's say now 1.4. But we did actually insert language that incorporated or at least reference.
I did. I mean, I wrote that comment, that long comment about what do we want to do. Kind of the afternoon when I was actually sitting in front of my computer drafting this and Molly's email came in. I said, ooh. And I wrote kind of a middle ground, is what I wrote. It includes a mix of doing some education so that people who own and are doing development on shoreline properties have access to her material. And then we have some existing regulations that mitigate some of these issues. Shoreline setbacks, stormwater flow control, both during development and permanently in some cases for shoreline properties. And then mental health guidelines about septic setbacks and all that stuff. Shoreline buffer regulations. So we have some, and I think we should keep doing those, basically.
Yeah, so section 1.4, all the red stuff there is out, right?
At the top? Yeah.
So then the first.
Because I've gone for number 3, a mix of voluntary action and some regulations that we have.
Yeah, I think it's, so we aren't gonna include the red, but we are gonna include the cut down on the bottom and black.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we move on, it's great.
Like, the Lake Assist guidebook, that thing here was sent to us as kind of a work of several different
I thought you said it was a soil conservation district agreement. Maybe I got that wrong.
Yeah, no, I think she had a bunch of other references in there. But anyway, it's a guidebook that has EMPs for the shoreline development. And it's it's quite good. It's really well written. So we wanted to make a reference to it in here. I make sure that somehow that gets used by departments, shoreline development, of other groups. So that's what that is. We step back to the Priest River also discharges two discharge plants authorized. Really? Okay, yeah, we put that in there. And they had 2011, that was a 3.5 hour sludge discharge.
And I would imagine then that Old Town has, I know they got a picture. Verified it's right next to the river. So probably Old Town, Priest River, Sandpoint. And Old Hope, and East Hope is not. Parkport, I'm not sure.
Well, they have a discharge into a lot of them. So we want to add that, Priest River, Priest River.
Sure. Old Town, maybe. But it could be checked. I just, very quick search here and I found it.
Where are you now? Did you go back to?
I just step back to that previous section.
Treated wastewater discharge. So we'll add in there Priest River. You want to say also the Old Town? I mean,
Well,
we don't have jurisdiction over either one, so.
No, but just, again, we don't have jurisdiction over Sandpoint. We decided to do it just for reference. But if we do that, what I was thinking was, any discharge to a body of water is regulated by the Clean Water Act. So that's basically the news here. And within Bonner County, there's only this many, and they're all for large municipal systems. This one private systems that are limited to discharge to rate for the state.
And the largest of them is currently not in compliance.
At this point, we have to this work in 2012, when they figured out what the sludge thing was. Pretty sure, then they went back, they're actually issued this.
Should we just say, make it a little more generic than the cities within Bonner County operate sewer treatment plants which have contaminated Bonner County rivers or,
I don't know if they're contaminated.
well, if they're discharging sludge into a river.
Yeah, but that's the same issue, but it's
This is talking
theoretically,
about
when they,
treated water.
yeah, when they release treated, it goes into the water, and
But, yeah, I understand that. I've been around a treatment plant releasing into a salmon river, and the tribe's happy, so. Well, I'm just trying to say, is there more than just the city of Sandpoint that you were bringing up, Don?
Priest River and Old Town.
So why don't you say, instead of the city of Sandpoint up there under treated wastewater, some cities within Bonner County?
I think there's a specific issue with Sandpoint that
Well, no doubt, but I mean, this is the planning document. This isn't, I mean, I'm not.
I think all we need to do is say, we can reference that Priest River, Old Town, not Old Town, but Priest River also discharges.
I can have suggestions.
I mean, I was trying to make this more, so city standpoint, the cities operate within plants. They're under the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality. Bonner County has no authority. but make note of their potential source of phosphorus pollution or something like that, just a little more generic.
Yeah, my suggestion would be, Bonner County has municipals that operate wastewater treatment
There
plants.
you go.
The effluent from these plants are discharged into the Connery River. The operation of these facilities are regulated by the Iowa Department of Environmental Quality.
Except that then you're totally avoiding, let's take a look at that, because we got municipalities that are not on the Monterey River.
No, this is, but currently, we're not aware of anything at the
We
time.
could say within rivers within Bonner County, not say specifically Ponderay.
If there's something we don't have any jurisdiction over, we're spending all the time.
So maybe we don't need the paragraph.
Well, because it is a use,
Huh?
it is a use.
It is a
It's a
use.
use of our county waters.
So then just say that, but we think it might be this city or it might be that city and sometimes not. Just, I'm just asking that it be a little more generic.
Well, I think Matt's suggestion is pretty generic.
Yeah.
I think, Frank, why don't we just get that slide? Why don't we just use that?
Some municipalities within Bonner County operate wastewater treatment plants located within the city limits. And then we just.
And you could say, if you want, including Sandpoint and East River. So we know, at least know of those two.
Did the city do something wrong with you, Dave? I'm kind of getting your message here.
Either make it general or make it specific.
Fix their
Pick
sewer
one or
plant.
the other.
We're gonna go
Yeah,
with
because
Exactly.
because we keep,
we're gonna go with Matt.
We're gonna go generic.
All right, you could say, and including Sandpoint. Okay. Back to the room.
Do
Okay,
you
so we
want
got
to say that or not?
No,
for education, voluntary action.
and he doesn't care.
Well, I'd like to say it. I mean,
and rather than say Ponderay River, you might want to say Bonner County Waterways or something like that.
Iowa State waterways, they're not Bonner County waterways.
Waterways within Bonner County.
Yeah. Waterways.
What did you want to say, Dave?
I think it's worth mentioning the two that we moved out, including.
I said including Sandpoint and Fish River.
Yeah.
Well, you said that, but we were saying something different, so that's why we have a. Hang on.
But if it's specific, it
Anybody
needs to all be
seriously object to
specific.
saying
If
including
it's
Sandpoint?
generalized, it needs to all be generalized, because otherwise that
Wait,
crap is serving
wait.
to everybody else.
What's the problem with saying including Sandpoint and Fish River? You know, we've got 100 pages to go here. We're still on the first one. Let's move it.
Move on.
And also drop it.
I know, I'm not going, I don't agree with dropping it. I think it should be there. I think that's a valid point, why it should be there. I think we've made it generic.
One thing I would change there is that sentence that says the effluent from these plants should be hard discharge.
Yeah, hopefully I have that.
Other than that, perfect.
Whence?
All right, so we have anything else with regard to mitigation? I think it's fine the way it is. Wait, the way they drafted it.
Shoreline development, I think that looks good.
All right, so on wetlands, I don't know what to do about this. I talked to Fish and Game.
So the high water temperatures, is that the first sentence looking at with the rest of it?
Where are you? High water,
High water temperatures. It's
Especially some of these.
High water temperature are good for fish, that's good.
the other section in that.
Oh, my opinion, yes. unless somebody has some other ideas. I mean, this is where I think we need a review from DEP. Are there other threats that I glossed over? That's what I remembered they talked about when we met with them.
I think that
3 months ago.
two principal threats are sediment.
So,
I don't know. I assume they'll give us a good review. I mean, a thorough review, not necessarily, but whether we ask them questions or not. If you want to leave it in, I'm okay with that. It'll prompt them to think about it.
What's that, Dave?
Are there other threats we should list? My first comment in red,
Under high water.
under high water count.
You know, the only thing there's nothing we can do about this is snowpack. If you look at historically what our average has been, snowpacks up there, I mean, very rarely are, maybe 1 out of every 10 years. But I know we can't do anything about that.
what you said here is under high water temperatures is correct, but do we know that we have any bodies of water in Warren County that have high?
Yes, I believe we do. I believe
Well,
they would point to Priest River and maybe Peck's.
So that there I would be in favor of using some specific, water bodies and maybe even historical data, just, for the last 20 years, it's gone from normal to high or something like that. But again, we need that from,
There's a lot of.
I think
that's in there. There's a lot of.
well, okay, so what you've written here is good, but it doesn't, I mean, that's true. But it doesn't say anything about what the conditions are in Bonner County. Do we have a problem or don't we, or is there anything that we should do because of high water? And then we come into Matt's wheelhouse about, well, snowpack.
I think in the next section, the way I would approach it is regardless of whether we're talking about somebody who happens to be on a stream that maybe has high water temperatures or not, if they come in and apply for a building permit, the planning department ought to hand them a copy of that lake assist document, and they ought to be encouraged to maintain shade adjacent to the waterway that they have, whether it's currently too hot or not. It's just voluntary, and I suspect most people would want to do that. We heard, think about all the sub-area plans go back, we heard over and over again, things of like, preserve the natural resources. I want to still be able to fish. I want to be able to hunt. So,
Yeah, I'm all in favor of it.
so people that
you
voluntarily,
should do that.
most people would want to do that, I think, most of the time.
About high water temperatures, Flathead Lake, Western Montana, Flathead Lake is 2 feet below normal pool right now. Or 2 feet below normal summer pool, and all of Western Montana, not just southwestern Montana, but all of Western Montana just went to food owl fishing regulations because of low water and high water temperatures and trying to reduce the stress on fish. So that's not that far upstream from us, folks.
Your snowpack, was that aimed at water temperature or something else?
No, snowpack. I think the more snowpack we have, the longer it'll take to melt off. Come off the mountain.
There's actually temperature. But one of the things that I am also involved in is extreme watershed. I can tell you that there are numerous different factors that go into high temperature. And for us to go into them, it's just simply not good. I mean, you have to go back to logging and widening and shallowing of Priest River. You have to look at the tributaries, some of which have had fires and have been logged significantly. You have to reduce the shade and other factors that have reduced the sediment has reduced the pools, deep pools, which the fish have refuge in. But none of that belongs in our conflict. I don't think. I could pick building location for that. Don't change anything. But does our code say, well, we do so?
Ultimately, what can we do relative to regulating private land use that has an impact. I agree.
And there's, there, on the Priest River, in particular, most of the shoreline of Priest River is sea and federal state. There's really not much private land there. That was one thing I was trying to point out with that interactive map that you do, talk about Trestle Creek, very important creek. Understand that, the bull trout. So it listed the creek, the whole watershed, the creek is 17.9 miles long. 2/3 of a mile of it are privately held grounds. So that's the kind of stuff you can say. Yes, these watersheds are huge, but how much of it is developed? And the table I was trying to bring up shows just that. It says here's the amount essentially that developed. Low, high, medium density, and open space development. But the rest of it shows 1,000 acres of forest, 11,000 acres of this, that, and the other, and also it details the amount of acres is a wetland. Well, I think with regard to the wetlands, we may end up having use of that. Yeah, and that's why fish and game. Where did it come? Seriously. Have you had any conversations with Mayor? I had one a couple of weeks ago. And he said he was gonna get to it, whatever that is.
Well, the thing is, and I remember that comment you made about, you're talking about Idaho Fish and Game. I found it very interesting. Also, I was searching in Idaho code, and it's actually DEQ, water resources, which was filling the gap for wetlands, for coming up with rules and regulations. And so I kind of found that interesting that Idaho Fish and Game believe that they would be some form of lead agency. I don't think that's accurate.
No, it's definitely not accurate, but they have a role in it, and they have expressed an interest in providing information, so.
Well, Dave, I think your writing here, if it's in fact yours or Don's or whoever's, you go down in section 1.4 and talking about mitigating the above threats, I think is a sound structure. And I would just say that high water temperatures, rather than that last sentence about shaded or whatever, can occur due to a variety of conditions and must be addressed at some future date or something like that. Because what I was hearing Alan say is there's just more than just, it's a complexity of things that create high water temperatures. You know, runoffs, shaded areas, sediment, blah, blah, blah. Let's not be too specific up here. Let's just say they are a threat and they do exist within the Monterey County water bodies.
Oh, okay. The reason I mentioned shade is because that's the one thing I think where we can
encourage
private landowners to do something.
I don't think.
But what about runoff too?
Well, we do things about runoff.
I mean,
Right, we have stormwater for those.
We have,
yeah, okay. Well, all right. Get down to it.
Most of the issues with regard to high temperature, other than shade, are not within our jurisdiction.
yeah, but that's one that is, so.
Okay.
I'm okay either way, but.
All right.
It wasn't.
Okay, wetlands. You have a suggestion to me? I don't know what to do with this last section. I think we can, section 1.5.
Sorry, I don't think the question made outside, but should I leave the text in red and there?
No.
No, stuff like that. Most of that was collected.
In 1.4?
And water temperatures,
Just leave it. Leave it there. Well,
the text in red?
talking about the Magno development.
So the first, let's take them one at a time. The first is, are there any other significant threats? To me, that's worth leaving in there for the agencies, so it'll cue them that if there's any other threats we need to address, fine. The next comment is identify, and this is to a comment that Mike made a little while ago, identify list bodies of water where these threats are already having an impact. So that would include high water temperatures as well as the others. And I don't know what those are, so I didn't try to make a list of them.
You gotta ask the ethics experts.
Yeah.
They're there for, right?
Version 9?
Yeah, yes.
I don't have any of that red stuff. I have this at first, the others have threats. Not into that. Oh, in your version, there's a couple of them.
And then,
On
listed-
wetlands, all this stuff, I feel like I'm in
Can
a,
we finish up
Oh, I'm
with Saudie's question maybe? The listed species question, when I originally made an outline for this section, I put listed species here, listed species, that technical term, right? But when I wrote it, when I sat down to write it, it didn't really seem to make sense to me, because here we're talking about water and what land use regulations can we implement to maintain the quality of the water to support the uses of our water resources. And talking about listed species, threatened species, whatever you want to talk about here, seems out of place to me. So plus I don't know what they are anyway. So I didn't attempt to address that. So that's really a question for the group. Do we want to address that? Do we want to address it here? Do we want to address it somewhere else in natural resources?
If someone addressed it in the category, that's example species. That's the one that they're affected by high temperatures.
Mhm.
That's the one that's what they seem to be concerned about.
The bull trout.
Rather than any other species.
So do we need to list them specifically by name, or do we think, okay, then the third one I would say we could take out, that third paragraph that starts with identified listed species. The other two, I think I'd like to leave in because of you, IDW, or whoever, think about those questions. And then I think when you get into 1.4, I think all that read at the beginning would be really good. That's kind of as I was writing it, that was my thought process. Then I went ahead and did number 3 anyway. So I didn't have to wait for you guys.
you did a damn fine job.
No, I didn't have to. I think that's fine. Anybody else think that's not fine? We'll take out the red and those. Red mostly just spots. So now we're back to red. Wetlands over there. Well, I don't want to.
Mud hole.
I don't know what to say about it.
No, I don't know that we can say anything.
I was going to say, can we say anything about it at this
What are we
time?
gonna say that the federal government hasn't yet said?
I think the paragraphs, the first paragraph, there should be something more current than 1987, right?
Well, we'll be mass fishing game.
Yeah. So we'll get that.
You know, that we've asked them to rewrite this section because they have expressed an interest not only to this commission but also to the county commissioners that they want to address wetlands. So we asked them to do that.
So we'll just wait.
So I think we need to contact Merritt again.
No,
I guess my
We
only,
need to.
yeah.
So why don't we do that? Why don't we contact Merritt and say, hey, we're going to finalize this component with or without the wetlands. So you approach it however you want to do. They're much nicer than I.
So this makes a reference to National Wetland Inventory. What do Idaho Fish and Game have to do with that? That comes from US Fish and Wildlife.
It should, that, in my opinion, it should be U.S. Fish and Wildlife as well, or U.S. Army Corps. And I take exception, I made that comment on the side there in that second sentence in that first paragraph. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has detailed wetland maps that provide more exact and precise location and description of the numerous wetlands that exist in Barnard County. That is not so. I have the emails. I didn't we were talking about wetlands. And I'm quoting here. This is from U.S. Army Corps from. You tried who?
Megan?
No, not. Is it Megan? It may be Megan. Maybe Megan. They said NWI maps are tools for probability, and this is all quotes, but are not controlling in terms of regulatory authorities. I've heard language be used that aquatic resource features identified in the NWI maps are federally recognized wetlands, but that is not factual for determining jurisdiction under a 404. NWI map generally gives a decent indication on the potential present for wetlands. And I've heard it many times where people say, well, that's a class 1 wetland. There is no map. I've asked her for a detailed map. One does not exist. Does not exist.
So there's an inventory. Right. That's where, again, going back to that DEQ thing, I open up that table and I click on further data. We talked about here's 17.05 acres of emergent wetland. And then down below it says GIS data, implying that you could get a shapefile that showed that area. Implying it. I didn't know that. So where did, in 2022, where did DEQ get that information? That's my whole question.
Yeah, because unless they've actually been delineated, and Army Corps has signed off and agreed with it, it is not.
So what you're saying is, in this first paragraph, first sentence is valid and the rest is not valid.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Well,
Yeah, you just said the Corps of Engineers didn't have any
change the
detailed
second
map.
sentence.
Pardon me?
Because I think what I heard you say and what I read in your comment off to the side is what they actually have mapped is some reasonable probability that there might be wetlands here on a map. And it's sort of a flag. Anybody's going to do anything there, they probably need to do some more investigation. Probably in conjunction, well, I don't know. Today, I don't know what who they go work with, but
Right.
did they call an Army Corps, or they call somebody else? Whatever. So maybe change that second sentence to take that degree of precision that it implies out of it and says, yeah, there's these maps, but beware, they only provide a reasonable, it's an indicator that there may be wetlands of this, maybe not
That's what we talked about.
likely to be wetland, possibly be wetlands in those locations.
Why would we agree on this? Let's just copy the whole section 1.5 and send it to there, and also to Fish and Wildlife Service. Yes. And also Army Corps of Engineers after their comment on
And see what they say.
I have tried to contact Army Corps of Engineers in this Fish and Wildlife Service, because they haven't responded once.
They're not
it. Well, I
going
know
to
they're not
until.
gonna come, but they respond. If you just send this section to them and say, do you have any comments?
Because we need them on record. If
Maybe
they
say
don't have
this.
any comment, then we can.
Yeah, maybe you send this, say, do you have any comments? If not, we'll delete this section. Maybe that'll get them.
Well, actually, I was going to suggest that you
I'll
delete.
get a complaint, I'll get a comment.
And when I had my conversation, it's been about a month and a half ago with US Army Corps in Walla Walla District, they're not gonna make any comments on anything until we go out. And that was supposed to come out September 1, and I just read today, no, now they extend that to the rest. So it's gonna come out. The new rule, the new EPA and US Army Corps rule.
About contiguous waters. Contiguous.
Well, yeah, we don't know what it's gonna look like.
Right. So, I think we ought to have the first paragraph, first sentence, and the rest of it, including location, emergent wetlands, should be deleted. It's just a biology class. It doesn't really say anything about
My hesitation to
the use.
My hesitation to do that is that we first got started on this whole project. We got a lot of pushback that we weren't addressing wetlands sufficiently, we should have addressed special areas and all that other stuff. So I think we need to make an effort with agencies. And, I mean, if we don't get a response, then we'll figure out what to do with it, but
I fully agree with what you're saying, but these following paragraphs are nothing more than a biology class.
How about, and so this is something we've talked about before. The lead-in sentence is fine. We acknowledge the fact that the NWI exists as an indicator. If if the land use proposal falls into an area that's in the NWI indicated, and a follow-up survey is needed to determine whether or not a wetland exists.
That's about all it is. Did you get that?
That's exactly what I was about to say.
And it's simple, it's inclusive, we don't have to make judgment, we don't have to define what an emergent wetland is, we don't have to define where they are.
And we don't care if it's
NWI
a
covers that, and everybody recognizes.
peat bog or a deep water marsh. We don't care about all that.
Doesn't matter.
Also, the list of wetlands that we got from Idaho Department of Fish and Game, I recall in the last meeting that we had with Merit, we said it's already included in NWI. So there is nothing else that we can do with those wetlands.
Just make it a like you
That's
suggested.
There, acknowledge it.
Yep.
Say it's a starting point, if your property has any indication.
I'm convinced, why don't we do that and eliminate everything? It's just,
I mean, we're trying to get this down from 180 pages to 3, aren't we?
right, so geothermal waters, that's, fisheries, at least on mine, most of that's been deleted, except for the last sentence that.
Where are we making progress here? Where are we going down?
Right, so that paragraph is okay, and I think we at least discussed, agreed, that we eliminate native species, the list of natural description of the trout, whitefish, canoes.
1.9.
So the first part of 1.9 is what I took at the beginning of surface waters, when I talked about watersheds. The whole watershed section, and those are the tables we were talking about a bit ago, which I think are now in an appendix, correct? And I think that if you read those paragraphs, those are the opening paragraphs in surface water resources section. I grabbed those paragraphs. So I think the watershed section can be deleted because I think it's covered now under surface water resources. I'm on 1.9.
Page 28.
And what section are they encompassed in?
They're encompassed in surface water resources, so we talked about at the very beginning of the night.
Okay.
They're
Okay.
identical.
So
Plus the tables are elsewhere.
The tables are still there, the tables are in the appendix now.
eliminate 1.9 completely.
Yes.
It looks like we eliminated.
Well, no. I gotta take that back. I can look at the paragraph number. The watershed section, eliminate. I did not do anything with aquifers.
What about beaches? We decided to eliminate that.
Yeah, but so eliminate that from both.
I think we cut it to one sentence or something, didn't it?
That was money there at all.
It's all gone.
All right, so the watershed's going to do what Dave just suggested. Leave that.
Down to
Not much. There's state level investigation and description about. It's a lot more limited than what people think. EQ and water resources have a handle on that.
So that south side one, Donna, are they referencing this? That's one that basically goes all the way down to Coquihalla. What does south side is known, located in Sago, Idaho. I don't know if this would be the spot to go ahead and reference that 2008 study that JUB done for Southside Water.
Yeah, it's in there somewhere.
Is it?
The last part of the map
It's
is
there,
water is
the
moving to
Smith,
the south side, where
the Smith study.
Well, we're going to take a step back. We can list these aquifers. What do we need to know about them from a land
Well, it's kind of interesting because, you know, like John said, that sunset aquifer ends up, it may not be quite as large as they originally thought it was. But also, in, you know, this information came in, some of this in 1987. In 2008, they done a pretty steady JUV and IDEQ did. They monitored a ton of wells up there in the Sagal. I found that there's absolutely, at the concentration they're at right now, there's absolutely no nitrate going on as well.
We also confirm the flow of the water. So, great. But, so what? Yeah, I mean, typically, when you talk about aquifers, you talk about sediment and the permeability of the sediment, so that surface water contamination is a problem. But this isn't really in our jurisdiction, so we list the aquifers and we say that, you know, before development is approved, it's got to be a verified water source. And part of the thing we hear, think about the hearings we had, zone change out there, saying, well, they're gonna ruin our aquifer. What does that mean? Well, we don't know what. That's not our job. Well, but IDWR, they're true. So we turn to IDWR and say, is it gonna ruin the Sagal aquifer? And they say nothing, typically, or they say no, or yes, or whatever the answer is. So how do we put that into code? Again, I think it's just a reference to say, this is directly regulated by IDWR. Land use applications need to be reviewed by IDWR, water quality. Can we just say that? Yeah, over and over and over. Let's just list it, let's just list the aquifers and say, say what they want to say. Go ahead.
Well, just to be, the last two paragraphs in this section under Monterey River aquifer is not necessary. Or not necessary. Last two paragraphs, transportation handling and the land wastewater disposal system of South. I don't even know why that's in here.
I mean, if I run through it, I believe that is something.
Right.
What I was suggesting was that we just list the aquifers as we know them, and we just say that before any development is approved, maybe we can have a permit for water about 100 meters, 600 sources.
I know.
Do you have to be permitted to put a well in?
Yes.
Anywhere?
Yeah, a driller usually gets a permit.
Okay, well, so.
You have to get a water right. Yeah, even if you're drawing from the lake, and there are quite a number of residents in this lake that draw water from the end, they have to get a permit for that too. It's whatever the permit is.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, the reason why I kind of brought that up, that AED stays, because it's in 1, 2, 3. Last sentence of that third paragraph, it says, there's concern about utilization of septic tanks and drain fields or absorption beds over the south side aquifer. And that's what this was written prior to that 2008 study. It says, yeah, we don't have an issue down there.
But aren't you concerned?
Am I concerned? Not really. They water my water.
So what would you want to say about that?
I don't know. I'm just saying that, are we talking about eliminating some of that stuff?
Eliminate all.
I think we're saying
Okay.
eliminate all of it, just say
List the aquifers. and then
exists.
Say that, before development occurs, you have to have some source of water approved by IDWR. And if we're talking specifically aquifers, again, there's a scientific listing of aquifers. I'm sure that almost everybody considers their house on top of that. They don't want to talk about the science and just think their percentage of effect. They are aquifers. So either we state there's a limited area that are scientifically identified as aquifers in Bonner County, the rest are water table, so forth and so forth. All these definitions that come out of the water community that say what water sources are. Well, this section, but this section is specifically given to them, I know.
So
There isn't a section.
this, I'm agreeing with Alan here, just simply state in this section, there are 5 primary aquifers in Bonner County, list them, the 5, and you need to be mindful of that and get a permit or whatever you said. In 3 sentences, we're done. About aquifers.
One solid, I don't know about 3 sentences with 1 solid paragraph, just.
Okay,
List them, define their parameters and.
4.2.
Okay.
So we're gonna eliminate all that except for 3 or 4 sentences to identify the aquifers and make sure you follow regulations.
Yeah, so we've done that. So now let's go to chapter.
So I have to bring up one comment. I guess just because they haven't identified a problem with nitrites in the water today doesn't mean that you can continue to dump more and more and more effluent into
That's
the
why I was
ground
telling
and
Matt,
not
we're
end up having a
concerned about
problem
it.
in the future.
Yeah, no, that 2008 study, what the Gunhan done, the Gunhan done their modeling on everything at 5 acres, 2.5 acres, and 1 acre. I mean, that whole Sago area. Now, they said if the entire Sago area, 1 acre tracts, I mean, the entire thing, we're talking from Lakeshore Drive all the way down to Algoma, 6 miles wide. Every single parcel had a septic system. 1 acre, it probably could have an issue. But more than that, the 2.5 and 5, the models are projecting about 1 issues.
So we don't
we
don't
looked at
regulate that.
Study in
Yeah.
in the Sago subarea plan, and that was our justification for not going below 2.5 in that area. Because, and it would take a long time, even at the 1 acre, I think it was going to take 15, 20 years or something for enough to filter down through the soil, but and that's just one fairly confined area of the county that we have some sort of understanding of what's going on based on a study that a graduate student did a while ago. The rest of the county, we have even less information about. So I'm just wondering if this is an issue I think that requires some ongoing attention as we put in more and more septic systems or
Somehow we need to say
or
that.
community systems or larger community systems or what have you. Right,
So somehow
right.
we need to acknowledge that.
So as
You might
continued
want to say
growth
something
happens or something like that,
Continue monitoring,
the county must be
continue-
mindful or monitoring septic systems.
And be aware it can take, there's a big delay, right? It could be 15, 20 years, but then when that happens, now all of a sudden, now you need a water treatment facility and everybody has to get their,
Citing
There aren't good solutions at that
so it's
point.
already
Put it that way.
Yeah.
There's no easy solutions at that point. once you prove
Okay,
the
so
groundwork.
generically here, we're saying we're not citing any studies. We're just saying there's 5 aquifers that exist. And you need to get permits through whomever. And the county needs to be mindful as current development evolves.
Yeah, you could even
It
say,
will have concerning impacts.
yeah, I could say, well, we're not aware of any issues today at the current level of development. It's possible as, more growth happens that this could become an issue and we have to
Can I-
be aware.
And just to clarify, it didn't mean citing within the document, it's citing within our discussion.
So do you want me to rewrite this little section for the next meeting? Sure. Okay. So we can move on.
Well, I think we should probably mention that further development and subdivision property.
I'll put it online and you guys can see it. By the next meeting, we should have it hammered out.
All right, so forests,
So I did have an action from the last meeting to do an outline on forests, which I did. It's on the drive. I mean, in general, this is it's only like a page and a half. So I thought a page and a half was a reasonable length. The only section I thought doesn't really add much of anything is the history. I thought in general, other than that, if we could give it to IDL or whoever would have this data, or maybe we can get the data, to update some of the facts about how many acres of forested land and what's the breakdown by land ownership, how much is public, how much is private, et cetera.
How much of that is, information you draw from
GIS.
For the percentage of public land and private land?
No, I mean, my concern about this chapter is, yeah, there is private land with forest, and I guess forest production, but by and large, it's all state development. Doesn't state.
Well, one of the things I suggested is that there is this productivity paragraph that talks about, among other things, well, it talks a lot about plants. I was going to be how many timber plants we have. I was going to be more interested in what's the recent harvest data there. And I thought it would be interesting to know, kind of the point you're raising, Alan, is how much of that harvest is coming from public lands and how much is coming from private lands. And I assume somebody has that data. It all gets recorded at the mill.
Sure there is.
Yeah, at the mills, but it's kind of odd because you'll have lumber companies here in Warren County. You're going to take your cedar north to Boundary. You're going to take your cedar to Welco. You're going to take your pine someplace else. You're going to take all your chipping stuff over to Ponderay, over by us. So we have to.
You have to search the data out further outside just the mills of the county.
What idea?
IDL is the one that permits any timber going to mills, so I'm gonna reach out and talk to them, see if they have that.
I thought it would be interesting if they had that kind of.
Do they
information.
monitor also private then?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
cut
Okay.
trees down and want to take it to the mill, you have to have a permit.
So
to do that.
you'll have that information for,
I mean, I can
Hopefully.
ask to see if they
Yeah.
have it, and what they can provide.
I think let's do that and see if we can update these tables and
But other than that, I thought it was pretty good as it is, and it's not overly long. So I just would suggest we take the history section out unless we really need to.
take it out
Yeah.
on forest,
Yeah.
history.
take out the chapter?
No, the history. There's a
Oh, yeah,
paragraph
yeah.
on
Yeah,
history,
yeah,
and there's a little
sure.
table about
Yeah, I
how
don't care about
many
1910.
mills there were in 1905 compared to 1930, which that's really history.
Well, we should be concerned about that.
All right, so we're gonna get some data from IDL for productivity. Well, I don't know that we need to have in here that there's 18 solar and 20.
No.
No, I should have been more specific. To me, what would be more interesting information is some current data on how much timber is being harvested.
Yeah.
And then, again, I think it would be interesting, how much of that is coming off of public lands, how much of that is coming off of private lands, and maybe even if you could break private down into, because I think the timber companies still have some pretty good sized private holdings. So it would be interesting to divide private between lands that the timber companies own versus I decided to harvest trees off of my 20 acres.
Corporate.
Yeah.
So on after table 8, those two paragraphs can be eliminated. Right?
Yes, yeah. And the paragraphs after table 8.
Two paragraphs.
We're basically eliminating, we're just gonna find new information and replace all of this, right?
Yeah, I think the first few paragraphs that talk about the composition of the forest, I'm assuming those are still accurate. I don't doubt that's changed a heck of a lot. If somebody from IDL wants to update that, I would say fine. Keep it to two or three paragraphs and a half a page. You don't need a whole biology lesson in the forest of North Idaho.
So 2.2, pasture range and cropland, we eliminated that. We eliminated 2.3, vegetation. We shortened substantially 2.4, certain species, anybody have concerns about they make sense. For sensitive species, it's listed under federal endangered species act. You know, if that's true. We care.
I thought when that meeting we had a month and a half, 2 months ago, when all the agencies were here, I thought they said there were some threatened plants. You didn't identify them. Yeah, that's something we ought to have. That. I mean, if we want to have it.
Are we gonna deny a DLP because it's a sensitive plant? What do we do about it?
I don't think we can.
Because it's the state guidelines or whatever. The huckleberry plant, a sensitive species? Yeah.
To some,
Especially my patch.
to those that eat, to those that eat them, yes, they're,
It's right.
the bears think so.
All right, so do we keep sensitive species in here or not?
I think we should probably leave that right there. I really like that last sentence. It should be noted that the following criteria are subject to change, because that's obvious.
Well,
No, we're taking all
eliminate
the
the
criteria.
So back to Mike's question from July 18th, Governor's Office of Species Conservation. Did that yield anything? Did they look into that? So why did we do? I mean, that office exists, and they, whenever they get an opportunity to voice opinions of things, they do. They're very, the guys that work in that office are very active.
No, we're not gonna make land use decisions based on sensitive species, let's just eliminate it.
Well, it says none exist, right?
That's the only thing.
So
I
just
thought
leave
of
it in there.
Was contact.
Yeah.
Contacting that office and seeing
If they do
if
exist.
there's really any, what would they suggest that how to do relative to sensitive species?
So when we're done with this, everyone in the world gets to read it, right, and make comment, including these agencies? That's probably the process. Maybe we ought to just write it and send it to them and assent by silence.
You know, if the first sentence is true, that there are no threatened or endangered plants, I agree, let's leave that in there. That's, boom.
That one sentence.
There are none.
Well, yeah, same,
And
like geothermal.
Yeah.
And if somebody says, oh, wait a minute. what about this
Yeah,
other
well, then
area?"
we'll have a discussion then.
Yeah.
I mean, we can
Bring
go
it up
around
and
the
move
bush, we can go around the huckleberry bush here forever.
And then should
So-
we take out that sentence that says U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for a basin has further designated species of concern based on the criteria given below, since you're raising the criteria below, we should probably
Just
read
leave
that
it.
one
Leave
sentence.
the
I would
first
want to
sentence.
know, have they identified any species of concern here?
Well, okay.
Right, and if the answer is no, they're great. They have another category, but
We
there
just
aren't
have
any
the-
of those either.
We just have the first sentence.
Yeah, first sentence is all we're taking.
Soils,
Second sentence is already.
no,
No, we're not using it.
We're not, yes, we,
Yeah, second and third. We deleted all the criteria.
second and third.
Deleted the reference to the criteria.
just leave the first sentence. So soils, we're supposed to get something from the Bonner County Soil Conservation, somewhere. Have we got anything from them?
You know, I'm starting to think, I mean, we could do all of this and we get something, but not everything. I think maybe we ought to just take the liberty and write this thing up the best we know how, and then send it out to all these agencies and see what they say. Then we'll get to spend another year on it.
They respond, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, but right now they're not responding. They're too busy.
I for one, I don't know how we would address the soils. If somebody wants to take a crack at rewriting that section on soils, that'd be great. Can you volunteer?
No, I think we ought to just leave it in and then send it to the,
We had a big issue about soils, when we went through the agricultural thing, and we're going to address it. Natural resources, and now where natural resources needs to be addressed, or I think we don't agree with.
Well, I don't, does anyone here have the expertise to change something here?
The issues I recall it was whether or not there is a soil which they want concern. Which is an NRCS designation, but not necessarily one of the.
I don't know if farmland state land enforcement is in our current, it doesn't appear that's in this.
Yeah, you know a lot about soils. Do you want to take a crack at rewriting this?
I can't. You know, it's kind of interesting because what we have adopted in here is different than what they have in their soil web, what do they call that? Web soil survey. You know, what we have adopted in here, you know, farmer, Bonner Silt loan. What we have adopted, and all this came from USDA and RCS, is that it's non-prime farm ground. But if you look in that web soil thing, it says it's all prime farm ground all of a sudden. And my question was, what has changed with Bonner Silt loan from when we adopted this in 2005 to now?
People, bureaucrats.
Well, but that's, I'd like to find out, you know, why. Because according to what we already have adopted, there's only 7 soils in Bonner County that are considered prime ag soils. And many of those are only suited as prime ag if irrigated. And so that's my question. What's happened?
Well, I think that's why you're the person that's got to rewrite this.
I'll take a crack at it.
All right, chapter 4, wildlife.
What about the last, sewage disposal characteristics that fits in soils? What,
How's the tank work?
yeah, I understand perks and all that, but okay, leave it in there, I guess.
Well, Matt's going to take a crack.
It's informational, I guess. Seems like sewage disposal maybe should be under, I don't know what it is, maybe it's wrong right there. Okay. Matt, have fun. Thanks.
Wildlife.
I got off.
General feeling about all this is that really this is understand the importance of it.
My comment that I made back in July, saying for your introduction of wildlife chapter, at the same time, introduction to your biology chapter. Because it doesn't deal with, it is generic, and it's an overall discussion of it.
I agree. I think those introductory paragraphs are important. Where I started having problems, and when you get to 5.2, see, I mean, my suggestion is to eliminate that first paragraph.
Yeah, well, and none of this is in direct relevance to land use regulation.
But aren't you concerned about tundra swans?
Oh, let's just stop.
I lose sleep over that.
Let's just stop.
Gee.
It breeds.
The blackbird or the white bee. Okay. You're always seeing that.
Then I eliminated the last sentence. I eliminated the last sentence. You know, we can eliminate a lot more, but that's what I was just saying.
The last sentence of
Well, so we're only going to keep the first paragraph and eliminate the last 2 sentences of the first paragraph, correct?
5.1?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on 5.2. I thought
Oh.
we were keeping
my-
5.1, right? So we're gonna eliminate everything after that?
No, I was gonna say, I eliminate the paragraph of the 5.2. Start basically with purpose bonds.
Oh, so you are gonna leave those in?
Well, I could be persuaded not to, but I think that you're supposed to address it. Okay, so well,
What use do we get out of the tundra swans?
loons are kind of cool.
I know somebody who got a permit.
Should we say something about 12 gauge in here or something, or?
All right. Why don't we leave it in for right now? Just take those, I've highlighted successes, I thought it should be eliminated if there is I didn't see any reason to have the deer, white-tailed deer, first paragraph seems to me to be sufficient. I'm not sure why we have needed the rest of that.
I agree.
The mule deer,
I agree.
at the first sentence, I eliminated everything else, well, except for being mule deer, the first word I thought of. I get another way with that. Then the elk, remember the deer there.
Does that qualify as a section?
No, I mean, adults reach a shoulder height. I thought that was good. You know,
So for white-tailed deer, am I deleting everything except the first sentence?
Just, yeah, it's he's highlighted it, it's good.
Don't forget,
Take out
we're supposed to be
he's
identifying the
highlighted.
uses of natural resources. That top paragraph talking about hunting. That's pretty much the uses of wildlife in this kind.
right, so then we're listing it so that we
So you want to list the hunting seasons?
Yeah, right, we could talk about game areas. No.
So the only reason I left the stuff under some of the stuff on the adult was I thought maybe it had, we were talking about the spraying capital order, I'm still back to my now question. Maybe it has something to do with development of those areas. I eliminated most of it. Under bears, I didn't get the sentence either. Darn made a comment. No mention of bears in Bonner County. I thought that was unusual. Because there's a lot of black bears.
Well, and under the bear, they like talk about berries, son.
It's all this stuff about there's another bears, bear,
Oh, yeah.
versus.
So are you eliminating everything there?
No, I'm not. I know. I just kind of agreeing with Don's comment that there's really, it's very generic to items. It's not specific to what.
Apparently this whole section.
Somebody watched
Good
a
to see
couple episodes out.
I got it
there,
off the
and those are
internet.
Really critical notes.
It's real.
I'm still looking for one on a loan.
We should structure this. I don't know. I don't know unless I don't have the numbers for both estimated black bears in Bonner County, but I'm sure it's 5.
I love this sentence. Grizzly bears also know the brown bears, and polar bears also inhabit North America.
I haven't seen a polar bear.
Even the windows are not.
That's why this is 118 pages.
Oh, my goodness.
What they do say in here about grizzlies, though, the things that kind of apply that they don't insist that that's not true. They definitely are okay.
Okay.
So Don, your comment, not one mention of bears in Bonner County. We know there are.
Yeah.
So that's all we need to say in this section. So are you volunteering to write this section about bears and huckleberries to watch out?
No.
Darn.
My wife is trying to keep that thing. No.
Well, I think like the rest of these, they should be very short, like 3 or 4 sentences at the most.
Do we want to talk about the population, or is that not even, relevant?
One's
We know,
enough.
we have black bears, we have grizzly bears in some areas of the county.
Maybe that's all we need to say.
If it's that simple.
Yeah, and if you see one, run.
I'll rewrite this section.
No.
We're trying to rein in all this
Faster than the
discussion
other
of
guy.
uses of natural resources. Listing them, saying they're here, saying there's a concern about them. The meaning of what, big game. It's just that, they're game.
Yeah,
They're not showpieces, they're not, they end up on the wall, but they're game.
Someone
If you
volunteered.
talk seriously with Fish and Game Department, they exist to sell licenses so you can shoot these things that they protect. Okay, good job, it's tight circle.
I guess I'm perplexed in this chapter why we're keeping so much detail about female bears.
We're not.
We're not.
Why?
We're not.
Well, I
gonna-
mean,
we're
then
gonna-
why are we, when a lot of the other chapters, this is exactly the sort of stuff we've gotten rid of.
Yeah, well,
it's
that's
all
what,
highlighted. So
it's all highlighted, so but we have to say something about bears,
I
right?
think what's different about this one is I don't think there's anything there that's worth keeping. Other than that, we know we have black bears and grizzly bears in Bonner County. Nobody has seen a polar bear yet.
All right, so why don't we just say that?
And the only other thing, I mean, and I agree with Don, they're game animals, that's the use.
Section 5.1 says
Game
it all.
animals, big game animals, right? And the only other thing, if we wanted to talk about some estimate of populations, okay, fine, I don't think it's necessary. But it's not gonna affect our land use decisions to know that there's 10,000 black bears or 15,000, whatever the number is.
You know, Don, you said, why not just leave it with 5.1?
Yep.
I kind of agree.
It could be enhanced a
Not
little
meant-
bit,
But, and eliminate everything below that.
yeah.
We don't
because
need
here
to
we-
talk about
Listed, kind of listed the big game.
their hair, they have aesthetic value, economics, blah, 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 recreation.
Yeah. It talks about recreation and other importance, so on.
Or should we just kind of list them?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, they are
Well, it does-
listed up there.
It does. in
Moose,
5.1.
bear, elk. They don't, I don't think they list
Waters
the
and
tundra.
grounds and fur-bearing animals, so it's all referenced there. Again, if you look at that critically, and maybe flesh it out a little
What
bit.
about Canadian geese?
Canada geese.
I'm perfectly agreeable to eliminating everything after that.
Okay,
I think so too.
done,
I think it'd be in keeping with what you've done in every other
Yeah.
chapter.
yeah. If you want to add
Some
tundra
summary
loons, you can do that.
Where
Or the
there are-
swans.
Where the resource agencies know of issues and they're documented to the county, land use applications will be filtered through those resource agencies. to comment.
We're not putting that in.
So they make a comment. So,
We just got rid of 3 pages. Do you think, U.S. Fish and Wildlife are gonna want us to say, address the grizzly bear and the endangered species, critical species?
They may think so, but to what,
But, and that's the problem, is just because they're listed, it doesn't affect our property. On the website.
so they're over and over. So I think based on that theory, you can eliminate.
Do you want to have these different animals that aren't listed in the introduction listed, such as
I don't think that's necessary.
moose? I mean, that might be listed.
So the front page news, just like it always is when a moose walks through town, when a bighorn sheep walks through Sandpoint, it's really gonna be different.
Moose is in the introductory paragraph.
Okay.
By the way, I had 2 in my yard at the same time
Last night.
last week.
Mother and daughter,
It looked like it probably.
Well, Bighorn Sheep's not in the first paragraph.
It also doesn't exist.
No, that's why it's not
May
there.
not even be. So I think you can look at everything down to, chapter 6.
So we'll just take the general overview and then.
Everything below 5.1.
Yeah, that's right.
Then under minerals,
That sounded much too great for life for,
I know, we're getting radical here.
urban chatting.
under minerals,
It's just. Oh.
so under minerals, I'd leave that first sentence,
What page is that on? I'm still trying to find that.
chapter 6.
Oh,
Going
6.
down.
Oh, wow.
Long ways, I mean, we
Good.
eliminated about 20 pages, so.
How about critical habitats? Do we need to be frozen or?
I just spotted that. Well, read it quickly, and it talks about Fish and Game keeps information about critical habitat, which we've been trying to get. And updated, that's a place that says it's critical wildlife habitat is a federal designation, not Fish and Game. I don't think they need it. First of all, there isn't, we've gone around and around on this, we know that there is no critical, these are not updated critical wildlife habitat there. It just doesn't exist.
Oh, we have one.
According to here, there's one of the defendants.
It's linked to our GIS. It's just from U.S. Fish and Wildlife. We can pull it up and show you. There's an overlay on our GIS system that just shows bull trout.
That's the only species that has critical habitat.
So is this statement true? The map, it talks about, areas of Bonner County known to be most important for wildlife, blah, blah, blah. But identified and shown in a critical wildlife habitat, Bonner County, Idaho map found appendix. The map was developed by Bonner County using research and data provided by Idaho Fish and
It's
Game.
not accurate.
Is that real? Who said that? Nobody questioned.
So, why don't we just say that according to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Critical Habitat Map, that the only species listed is bull trout. Yeah, we know this is wrong, because it's not a Fish and Game.
Well, is that part of it?
I think Travis wants to say something.
No?
Kind of float that conversation we had. Regarding the critical wildlife habitat.
Yeah, I think at the end it was, no, only bull trout that are actually, the critical species.
I think so, but.
So this is directly pulled from U.S. Fish and Wildlife's GIS, like mapping system, how they map critical wildlife habitat. So I worked with our GIS department to create an overlay on inside ours so that we know when and if there's critical wildlife habitat on properties that are having land use actions. So you can see this is up here is the links. So when you click on it, it tells you what it is. Everything in Bonner County is the bull trout. So all these little tributaries and rivers and whatnot, it's just going to show bull trout.
Go back again to that. Put that in again.
Yep. So you see,
Yeah, that's what's on that DEQ interactive map.
Yep.
It shows what the purpose was.
How do you get to this from the GIS site? Or
this is on our.
That's all the purple with the.
Or this is just
outline.
internal?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Well,
it's all
I've
of.
never seen this.
So it's all the
It's-
people with
It's very
submerged
interesting,
lands.
so Priest River.
Yes, it would be submerged lands for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
it is a purpose.
Yeah.
It's a pink line. If you zoom in, go toward Priest Lake and Priest River. Over to Priest River. That way.
I'm working on it. It runs a little slow when I turn the layer on. So
Oh, that's true.
did I go too far? All right, hang on a sec. Let me.
There's 57, so there it is. So whether or not that, yeah, I think that shore, Priest River, and East Creek River are indicated as critical. Just like every stream, they
So-
get classified in Water County, that feeds into the river or the lake.
So what do we want to say, according to
U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
Fish and Wildlife, critical habitat?
So like I said, this comes right from U.S. Fish and Wildlife's website. So they have a site you can go and turn this exact same info on. We just linked it to ours, so planners don't have to go back and forth from different websites. So it's not on the public viewer, but it is available to the public through U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
Okay, so let's just reference that. U.S. Fish and Wildlife. And so basically it's species of concern, habitat of concern is for both of
Trying to catch up here. I was going back where we all agreed to eliminate all this wildlife stuff except for the first paragraph, but I think as I was reading down and recollecting here, I'm thinking there should be something added in here as it's already in there, wildlife habitats being lost to development, which we all know is happening. You know, deer are being confined, and not saying it's good or bad, but I think we need to recognize it. It's a land use issue. Moose, I mean, they're still coming into town now, but they're coming into neighborhoods because we've invaded their land.
Wait,
I wouldn't talk about deer.
yeah, no,
Well, okay, so let me go
You're up in
down.
New Jersey, you can't swing a stick.
Bald
around a
eagle?
deer back
you
there.
can't
It's
walk
not
down my road
protected.
sometimes without throwing something at
Yeah,
them to
okay,
get them to get out of the
but
way.
bald eagle, you were talking about bull trout. I mean, that's under critical habitat. There's sections 5.8 and 5.9, I guess.
Yeah, but is bull trout critical because of development? Or because of other issues?
Only if development degrades the water quality.
Right,
there's
so it's
kind of
other
already-
issues, it's the water quality.
Well, the problem with bull trout, it's a multifaceted issue, high temperatures in some
Right.
areas. And it's also predators.
I wish I wouldn't have said bull trout because I had to live with them 15 years and different time. It's means to an end. So
But the biggest problem with bull trout, at least at Priest Lake, I imagine, is Monterey too, because they have a program to eliminate the lake trout.
yeah,
So, you know, there have been species that have been introduced to these lakes that have not competed well with bull trout. So
I guess what I'll do, because this is in flex. I'm gonna work harder on this chapter 5.1.2, aside from the aquifer thing, to bring it back to suggestion to include some protection for development in certain areas,
5.8, you decide on 5.8.
or 5.7, 5.8. 5.8 primarily.
All right,
I'll just do it and you guys say yes or no the next time we meet.
white-tailed deer, okay, we're gonna eliminate that.
Yeah.
I would eliminate everything down to wildlife disturbance due to urban sprawl.
So everything in 5.8 except the first paragraph.
I'm just gonna look at 5.8 and 5.9 and see, bring back a recommendation to the group to see if it,
Yeah, but
part of it can be.
you're only talking about. Yeah, you're only talking about.
Yeah.
Just that first introductory part, right?
Yes.
All right, so anything from white-tailed deer on down. Until you get to 5.9.
Correct.
This may, maybe that's a problem.
I-
Wildlife
and-
disturbance
and-
due to urban sprawl.
I'm just saying, after I have more chance to look at it here in the next week, I may come back and say, just leave it all out.
Urban sprawl is particularly acute in urban
I don't like the term urban sprawl.
I don't either, but, you know, this is not done specific. In the west.
No, I don't think urban sprawl is a description of Bonner County at all.
I don't either.
But we do have significant growth, and there should be which is not relevant to this subject, but there should be more infilling than just taking the easy stuff and expanding out.
Like, these that's going on.
Well, it's just more
I
expensive.
think, you know, based on what Mike's gonna do with 5.8 and 5.7, I think 5.9 is just kind of redundant.
Yeah, I'll take all three and try to get it down to 3 or 4 sentences to put in the first paragraph.
Eliminate all the specific.
Yep.
Bald eagle. Bald eagle thing is not accurate anymore, because I can tell you, there's a lot of bald eagles.
I see them every day.
Okay, minerals.
Is there a reason for now?
I need to.
Is it in first? I think it's in.
All right, so this is pretty brief. You want to take a look at this, Matt, because you're more familiar with this.
There's an outdated data that probably we want to include it to be updated. 12 full and part-time jobs in 1980, 56 and 86.
Reasons.
Under minerals. Yeah. The second paragraph right at the top.
I think you've got to just streamline this and
Yeah, I
focus on
think-
what actually
It's
is.
the topic.
Yeah, mining from, I think they're talking about mining from minerals. They're certainly not talking about non-metallic.
Well, they do. 6.1 is metals and
Minerals is listed.
2 is non-metals, mostly sand and gravel.
I like that sentence. Other locations than sand and gravel deposits.
Yeah, so we can say it doesn't exist.
Commercial mining activity in those counties, so.
Well, let me ask you something. Is gravel, basalt, granite a mineral? Because you're mining it all every day.
Yeah, it's non-metallic.
So it's not a mineral.
I actually think they are.
Well, actually, I want to be careful here because I think that's a great resource for this community. You guys, you got a great resource here, and it needs to be acknowledged and protected.
You know, I think actually it is, and it's found in IDAPA.
Huh?
Depends on how you classify a mineral. A mineral is classified like quartz. That's a mineral. Right, yeah.
But you're saying granite is not a mineral?
Granite's made up of silica, muscovite.
Well, I'm just saying in this section, I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but there should be some acknowledgement of the construction industry that's in this county, that those resources be protected.
Just reiterating what the state code says about that. It does great much. Valuable resource to state that.
Right. They're one of the only,
Well,
talking about protected species.
yeah, actually, it's in 6.2 non-metals, sand and gravel, basalt, quarry mining. There's a brief statement there.
Yeah.
Is there a map of the gravel pits, mines, and quarries?
Mm-hmm.
It says there is.
Oh, I'm sure there is. They're all permitted. The legal ones.
We have recommendation.
Yeah, I actually got that map. it's quite old. Yeah, some of the 80s.
Well, there's, what, can you get a hold of what goes down the reclamation plan?
You know, we can, I know they've been, I think if I'm not mistaken, there's 90 non-metallic lines in the county. And I think it's estimated that there's somewhere in the 78 to 80 actually have reclamation plans. Some do not have to do reclamation plan because it's too small. You have to reach a certain amount of size for reclamation.
Well, I think Alan was asking you, Matt, if you were gonna do something with this, and I
Yeah.
just wanted to state, and it is in here, under sand and gravel, salt, so I would like, next time you bring back, I'll probably suggest that those be recognized and protected for the future.
This is one of the few places in the whole component that directly talk about uses.
Right.
It's going to uses and materials, largely used, the road building.
There you go. Well, so are you doing that, Matt?
Sure.
Okay.
Who Wilson,
I do.
do you?
I'm very, now.
Are we down to climate?
All right, so I'm gonna say something radical here. On climate, I think we eliminate the challenge. This is weather.
I agree with that.
There's nothing we can do about it.
Don't you want to know the annual rainfall in February?
From experience,
Especially in light of your building location.
Yeah. Or cloudy days? I mean, come on.
no, it's really good information from
So this is why I suggest I have a
47.
serious discussion about this, because you talk about, you're gonna get a lot of comments that we're not addressing climate change.
This doesn't.
But that's not climate change, it's climate.
It's not a land.
How do you use climate change?
Somewhere in the comp plan, they want to see climate change.
No, they want to see the whole
Relative
comp plan
to-
revolve around climate change.
Yeah, there are people who would love that.
As I've
That's what's been
said
said
in
in
the
some
past,
comments.
the climate changes every day.
Yeah.
So,
Climate
enough said.
now,
Don't discuss climate change, they'll discuss their trans fats, how about that?
Well, I think if we eliminate this chapter, we'll probably get some.
I believe we will. Well, right now, this came out of existence. So, let's try it. I think we just need to have that conversation. What would we do in place of this somewhere else in the comp plan if possible?
This might be a good rule. If we leave it out, they won't say anything about all the other sections, and they'll just address this at the time.
Yeah, well, this is the section.
I just don't know.
The lightning rod.
But first of all, I think climate's changing. I don't think anybody's questioning that. The cause is certainly up for debate, but
The groups, there's two groups here in Bonner County that are stressing climate change, addressing climate change. They've gone to the cities and they've come to the county a couple times. They've gone to other counties, there's 2 counties in the state that have included a discussion about climate change. And it resolves down to, therefore, the county code would require cluster housing. In the county code.
we already doing, well, we're not doing that.
That's the only thing that all the rest of their recommendations get much better in an urban area where you can do things like reducing on paving, make greenscape, et cetera, those are wonderful things, and the city of San Antonio has done a lot of that, but it doesn't fit the county.
Well, suffice to say that this section as written is irrelevant. We don't care how many cloudy days there were in 1991. So,
Wait a minute, let's put down under climate. It snows 600 inches of snow every year in Bonner County, period.
I was gonna say, that would be the reason to leave some of this in.
Aspirational goal.
And when it melts,
People will read it and go,
we're for global warming.
then we have drought for 6 months.
Average wintertime temperature is -30.
right, right.
Drought.
It's the
May through
deterrent
October,
chapter.
drought.
But hey, they wanna stop
Let's
growth,
make
here it
let's
is,
make
right here,
this chapter
chapter
1
9.
of the comp plan.
All right.
It's recorded.
Poking that.
Yes.
Finesse with a stick.
And it will come back to haunt us.
And remember, this is all being recorded.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I agree with Alan.
Yeah, I don't think it has any function.
And same with glaciation.
I'm talking about the whole paragraph.
thing.
Oh, yeah.
The
The whole chapter. Okay.
That's all part of that.
Yeah.
The other section.
86. Yeah. I don't think glaciation's gonna be on the checklist for building permit.
Well, the other option is either eliminate it or leave it as is and see.
No,
No,
that's
that's
for
just
water work. That's just, we might have increased location.
No, I mean, just leave it in there. I mean, who's gonna pay attention to it?
All right, so let's.
Somebody will pick it up and say, therefore you must.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're in agreement.
All right, so
Fine.
let's try to get these two sections that we try to assign or assign today. And let's get those back for next week, or next meeting. Next week. And let's see if we can wrap this component up and get it sent out to the various people, the ASAs for hearing. Well, I would like to address a couple other things. Actually, the public services component. We can't just keep going on week after week with no response from the various entities. So my suggestion is that we divide up the sewer districts and the fire districts and whatever districts are in there, each of us, 7 of us, and make the calls and update the information that's in the current report. Use that as just a checklist.
Are you saying you want each of us to be contacting public entities to comment on this chapter per se, or the rest of them that we're doing?
Public services.
Oh, the public services. Okay.
So if you go ahead and click on that public services component, then click on data. Okay. Wait for everybody to go through. Is everybody there? Data. Okay. There's a list of the 11, the only 11 who's responded. But if you click on the very bottom one that says Barn County Mail, no, my bad. Not Barn County Mail, it's public service mailing lists. They're going from the bottom, public services, facilities, utilities mailing list. Click on that and take a gander. No?
No, you're fine. I've been updating it.
Or you have, yeah, cool.
I didn't know we were done with,
Oh, yeah.
sorry, going into something.
Just scroll through the hundreds. Oh, well, not hundreds, 104.
By the way, climate is not a requirement of the state comp plan.
I know, that's good.
So I've assigned out
So I'm not sure what
to another staff member the whole fire district portion, so we should have some movement in the next 2 weeks. Daniel's gonna be making phone calls to all the fire districts. We didn't get any responses from them. I will continue to work the water sewer districts. We got an updated list of the, what is it? State regulated public wells, like shared wells. So when they hit more than 15 or 15 connections or 25 people served, it's considered a public water system. So we have an updated list of that. I'm trying to remember, there was another water district I think that I reached out to and got an update from. So we're working on it.
So what information, just out of curiosity, are you looking for? For example,
Sure.
from all those small
Mhm.
15, 20 person.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, really, we just wanted an updated list because we have one from our old comp plan that we can add. It's just updating that list to the current. What we don't have is anything that's not regulated by DEQ. That's where that list came from. They suggested we reach out and talk to IDWR and PhD to get an updated list if there's other shared wells that are less than that, what hits their level. But PhD made it sound like they didn't have a list. So I'll reach out to
What?
Catherine and talk to her.
Why do we want that list?
Yeah,
Are we gonna do it? And it changes all the time, right?
Mhm.
Not all the time, but obviously it's gonna change.
I'd like to suggest a different approach.
Sure.
Let's get this done, drafted the way we see it, and then send it out to the individual saying we're in the throes of adoption.
Mhm.
Please make your comments, because if they don't, then we're good. And
Yeah.
if they do,
Mhm.
I mean, but unless we're lacking some information that we definitely know we need from somebody, I don't know what that is.
So what I was trying to gather was any master plan documents or anyone that in the county that provides a service that has a plan for how they're going to accept growth or how they're going to react to growth. Most of these water districts are required to have some kind of master plan document. Sewer districts are the same. Yep. So they're trying to plan for growth. So we're looking over to like the libraries and the fire districts and those others that may also have some kind of plan. So if they don't, if we get an email back or a response saying, hey, we don't have anything, then we've done our due diligence and tried. So yes, we've emailed out back in February, I think 90% of this list, but we've only received 10 or so responses. So we're gonna put a little bit more legwork in and contact these a little, over the phone, say, hey, we're still waiting on this. We need to update this. So I think by state code, we're supposed to analyze, what does it say? 6508 says,
Public services.
yep.
Public
It's
service
H.
facilities, an analysis showing general plans for sewage, drainage, power plant sites, utility transmission corridors, water supply, fire stations, and firefighting equipment.
So what we're trying to get you is the general plans. So without any data, we can't just say, well, we asked and we didn't get anything. So I'm trying to get at least a picture as to what the general plans for, around the county of different service providers have.
At the current component, first of all, some of it's not relevant.
Mhm.
Bonner County, municipal sewer district, taking care of.
So even if we don't do like a full, such and such fire district and this is their plan, and we can review the documents we have and make some generic overall statements. It appears that many fire districts or the vast majority of the fire districts don't have a plan for growth as of now. Or we can look at with regards to, we have 2 that are just adopted capital improvement plans that are accepting impact fees. So those 2 are definitely looking forward, right?
So if you look at this thing, I think it's, I'm just looking at the table 1. Bottle Bay, there's location, and it says number of connections estimated, present capacity flow, connections estimated, and then plans to expand land, application site as needed, and then go on. Each one of them has that table filled out. I think we need to have updated information on that. Because this does actually have an effect on land use.
Yeah, because if we have, 15 out of our 30 water districts that are at capacity, then you don't want to, zone higher densities right around them because they're not going to be growing. Or if they're levying something new and they're going to expand their water district, then you can modify the zoning around to accommodate the growth that they expect. So it's a really important tool when we look at land use and then the zoning map. So we will keep working on it.
So we'll keep punching away here, I guess is what I think.
Yep.
But I think there's a lot of progress done tonight and a couple little assignments away from refining this into a draft form to get it public. We go to public comment, right?
Well, natural resources, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, well, in a month or another meeting or 2.
Is it
When
ready?
we're ready.
No, it's not ready.
No,
It's gonna be
we
ready
gotta
after
wait,
next
we gotta come back at least one more time.
Okay.
Workshop.
So, there's a bunch of information here from the Vista and the public services and public services. I would think we can at least get a Vista to respond.
I think I did. I don't know if the little comments are on the side on one of those.
Yeah, if not, they're in the folder under each. So if you look back under the data folder, if we have a comment, we have it listed in a folder in and of itself.
Okay. A couple of years back, maybe 3 years ago,
this area, and mentioned everything. They referred me to Spokane, the main office. I contacted them, talked with their planner, and he said, well, we just respond, we don't have plans. So that was kind of crazy, but they wouldn't, that was it. They wouldn't do any more than that at all. Northern Lights was far more progressive with their information than this. We've already had the stuff in Northern Lights. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we can't make up stuff for somebody, right? So we can do our due diligence, you know, we can try.
Say that, you know, Vista has no plans to expand.
Yep. No plans were provided, something like that. We'll continue to react.
Woe to the fire district that brings up climate change.
Okay, so like in the fire districts, population served, I'm sure these are all.
Yep.
Some of these, there's more fire districts, I think, now than others.
Yep. I know we have a new one at Priest Lake. I've been in contact with their chief recently. They don't even have a fire department yet, no building. So he's working out of his shop. So yeah, but they're working on it. It's going to be in like the Pinto Point area. Yeah, they're trying to get some land to build a fire department. So
it seems to me that fire, sewer, water,
those are the big ones.
get a hold of. I mean, the other, like health and welfare, I doubt that's changed a whole lot.
Yeah. We're going to focus on the fire, water, sewer, and if we get something from the library district or from the electrical companies or the EMS.
You know, it's their plans for expansion. So unless East Walker County Library District has plans to do something in the unincorporated area,
Right.
say they don't consider West Walker County, that's it.
Well,
They say how many books there are, they say the library.
the library district's tax outside of the city, though. So even if they're going to build within the city, they're providing a service. So I think it would be. I don't think it's going to affect land use. You're right. I did sit down and meet with solid waste because the information they initially provided was just hours of operation. So I asked her to put together a list of. I might have put it in there. I don't recall. A list of their improvements that they're planning on over the next, and if they're going to establish any new sites, improvements that they're making to current sites. I know they have a number of projects going on right now to expand in unincorporated land, kind of intensify the current sites and make some improvements. So we're going to try to capture all those. And then I asked her to put together a 5-year, even a hopeful plan, assuming it gets funded type thing. So she was going to put something together for us. So each one of those is by a CUP. So what they're doing is, if they want to modify their buildings on site, or how big of an area they're taking up on, take Upland for example, right? Like it's a pretty small spot, but the land around it they own something like 6 acres or 5 acres. So if they want to expand their footprint, they have to go through a CUP process.
Nothing's happened. Oh, has it happened at Duford? Or not
No,
Duford, at
it's
Culver
more of like, where things are located
it
on
has.
site and how much it's improved. Yeah. So when they want to expand the site plan, which means like intensifying the use. So I don't think we've no trips per day or tonnage. I can't imagine how we'd enforce that if we did.
Back to, those municipal sewer districts, like all day, and, as current uses present in plans to expand. Cameron Health District actually recommended the removal of the plan to expand home.
So we can't, the other thought I had was maybe we can start
Expand the capacity of these sewer districts. In that letter, I think I had forwarded to you.
Yeah, I remember reading over that. There was a number of comments. I was curious as to why.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't understand that one at all.
Who has that?
Well, that's a good position. So I looked at the land use to see whether we might really make some progress on that, waiting for the public services. But the land use, at least as it was drafted in the last comp plan, it is basically a summary of all the other components. Good references from the others, but, so I guess we could start that, I don't know. But, we just seem to be, like we talked about earlier, sort of stuck in the mud here. We can't move forward until we get these public services taken care of. Unless everybody thinks that it would be okay to start looking at land use. But we were hoping that we were going to get this done and done by now.
We might be able to start working on the outline of land use.
Say that again?
Just the,
It might be okay to start working on the outline of
just
the
the
land use.
presentation of it, how's it gonna be formatted? It's gonna be a unique component, for sure, because it's gonna reference others, so what, how do we see that coming together? Maybe that's it.
All right, so why doesn't everybody, prior to the next meeting, let's look at the land use component and, understanding that we're probably not going to be addressing the land use map.
Right.
So we at least deal with the component, but the land use map is a critical part of it. So we need to go through it. So let's everybody at least review the land use component and we'll have some general discussion about it.
So you start with this, right? Land use, goals, objectives, and policies.
Let's start with the component.
Well, but in the component, it says integrate its land use policies and proposed land use map. This whole, this was written early on, I guess, in your charge. I would say we look at this and see if that is of any guidance.
Sure, we can do that.
To us.
I'd look at that and look at the component.
Encourage cluster developments is one of the objectives, and commercial industrial uses should be located, affect natural resources.
All right, so, everybody okay with doing that?
Jake, is there a land use map?
Yep.
Yeah, and it's on the, probably GIS.
That's your comprehensive land use planning map or the comp plan map or the future land use map. Got a few names.
AKA?
AKA.
The map is on the GIS system.
Well, there's two maps. There's a zoning map and then there's the comp plan map. Yeah, or the land use map.
That's there.
Absolutely.
One thing, when we started this process, there was discussion about some of these sub areas, about how they want to call it Selly Valley 5, Selly Valley 10, Priest River 5, Priest River 10. The problem with that in the conversations I remember having back then is we should have let's say a 5 and a 10. And it doesn't matter, we should separate them out to 7 different sub areas.
Right.
And calling it a Southwest 5, because that may be different than a Selly 5.
It should be uniform.
Yeah, I agree. This is an area where we need to harmonize.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a big change. It's just maybe convention. I don't know why they went that way.
All right, so we're going to look at the goals, objectives, policies, and component language themselves, and we'll have a nice discussion next time. Hopefully, we'll at least get by the natural resources.
There maybe were some criteria for what would be, a 5 acre or whatever kind of zone, like you made an example, in each sub area that maybe were a little different. But even there, I would argue that that's an area where we're supposed to harmonize. And there's probably some good ideas from some of them, and
We should look at the sub-area plans too.
we should probably refresh our memory about that.
Okay, so, anything else?
Not that I can think of right now. No, I think we've covered everything I was gonna bring up.
You whacked out a lot tonight.
All right, so on the next meeting, we will, we have these code amendments.
No, that's not for 2 more meetings, so it'll be like a month from now. I have to get the noticing out, and then there's a 21 day, what is it? September 5th, that'll be the hearing for that code amendment, so.
All right, so for the next meeting, which is August 15th,
Mhm.
we'll have the natural resources. We'll have an initial discussion of land use and an update on how we're going on.
Perfect.
So then, we may also, we get the workshop scheduled, maybe we should agendize also a discussion of, vacation rentals. We can do that. Whether we get to it or not, will be somewhat dependent on.
We can add it to the agenda, and if we don't have an update, we'll just say no update.
All right, so that being the case, anything else for the good of the cause? If not, we're adjourned to 4:30 on August 15th, 1500 Highway 2, San Fran, Idaho, first floor conference room. It is